Hey everybody, this is Perch. Information can be used in a lot of different ways, and we've talked about it. I remember I read the letter. The letter. I sound like an old man. I read the email from like a month or two ago. I don't know. Time has no meaning in COVID world. But from the person who's like, I'd really like for you to stop doing videos because the data that you're putting out is being used by people, and they mean Comicsgate, to prove their points. And so, can you just stop putting out your videos because the data is it helps them. And I did a video about that at the time, and I think I'm only more reinforced by that today. And it's interesting because the pendulum swings back and forth, both directions. It's whenever there's information or data that comes out, or analysis, opinion, whatever it happens to be, and it doesn't fit with what people want you to say, then they get angry. As opposed to just dealing with the data as it comes. Nothing is ever 100% on your side. It's a wonderful fantasy to believe that everything that you believe is perfectly right, 100% right, and can never be proven wrong. And there's no other way to get around it. But there's this thing, adulthood, that happens where you come to realize that everybody's trying to do the best. I don't know about everybody, but you in your world, in theory, are trying to do your best to kind of make it through. And sometimes you're going to get things right, and sometimes you're going to get things wrong. And only a fool clings to things that are proven wrong. You can't be in constant information paralysis. You do have to make decisions and try and go with it. But you have to be willing, if you're going to be successful in life and just as a human, you have to be willing to accept new data and then adjust your point of view. If you're unwilling to do that, you lose. You become extinct. So his tail is long as time. There are people who are very, very convinced that the earth was flat. And then data showed up proving it was not flat. It was actually round. And man, people were pissed about that. They didn't want to change that worldview. And those people are, now look like morons. Or worse, they're not remembered because who wants to remember the person who was determined till their dying breath that the earth was flat. Nobody wants to remember that. Anyway, where comics are concerned, there is lots of data, and the data it actually tells lots of different stories. Here's one that I know causes a lot of whiplash in people. The Iceman series, the one from a couple years ago that was panned all over the place, that didn't sell well. I know, shocking. It did not do particularly well. Also, the trades did not do particularly well. Now, I remember there's some videos saying, all the libraries bought these trades, but they didn't, though. The numbers do not show anything significant there either. There's a numbers video I have coming up showing Moon Girl, and Moon Girl is a wonderful illustration of basically the math being proven. I'm actually convinced. For a long time, I thought it was Squirrel Girl, but I looked at the numbers of Squirrel Girl, and Squirrel Girl actually didn't do very well in trade. We were told that Squirrel Girl, it didn't sell well in the direct market, but the trades made up for it. And the reality is the first volume of Squirrel Girl did well. It did better than average in trade. It got into some other pipelines, and it sold. And undoubtedly, that's why they kept going with the series and kept pumping out some trades in the hopes that, the Volume 2, Volume 3 would ultimately achieve the numbers of Volume 1. It didn't. And the title's been canceled now, and it's nothing's happening with it. But for a while, I think that was the plan. Moon Girl is interesting because the individual floppy sales, as you'll see in the analysis we put up later, they were terrible. The numbers were very, very low for the floppies. And the direct market trades were also low. But magic, the Moon Girl sales on Amazon and on Scholastic, and I'm sure libraries as well, those did quite well, very well, actually. That title is an undisputed success, profitable success based on those numbers. I've seen some people, by the way, make the argument that, well, if it's a library sale, then that doesn't really count. And it's like, I've tried to wrap my head around that point of view quite a bit. Look, money coming in counts. If whatever the title is, put it this way, a lot of people are doing crowdfunding right now Cool. If there was a library tier, and suddenly, like every library in America decided to buy whatever this crowdfunding book is. We'll take my friend Sean Murphy. Okay, let's say every library in the country decided to buy Plot Holes. He would be happy, and he should take that money. like, why would you not take the money? And you would, if the library sales accounted for like half of the profits, and it was good, good money. Let's say he made $1 million off library sales. Like, goddamn. I mean, like, is that cheating? No, no, that's money. We have to stop thinking that, well, the money has to come from this one particular area. No, the money coming in equals good. The way you look at numbers, and I think this is what frustrates and irritates a lot of people, is like numbers are numbers. Facts are facts. Cash coming in is cash coming in. And the problem is several of these titles, like, for example, Iceman, did not really bring in money in the direct market floppies or in trades or in other places in libraries. It just didn't make a lot of money. Now, it did make the first volume of trade made just enough money that they authorized a second series, which then did nothing, did poor, and it didn't make cash. And was it a bad decision for Marvel to try for that second volume in the hopes that the trades were slightly higher than they thought? Yeah, it was probably a bad business decision because they didn't make money on the second volume, and it was canceled. And there you go. Pretty simple story. They were not able to get those libraries to buy them. Okay. I mean, sure, it didn't have Moon Girl level success in the secondary. Well, I don't know, secondary market's the right way to put it when that's where the bulk of your money is coming from. But great. So I'll roll out a fact like that though. That hey, Iceman did not do well in numbers. And I noticed one segment of my audience like, haha, see, I told you to take that, SJWs, your title sucked. I'm like, yeah, and also if we go further back in time, because Iceman has had actually a limited series before, that title also sucked. Like, you can't sell a solo Iceman book. That's the fact. You can have him be straight, gay, whatever you want. Iceman solo books do not do well financially. Shocking. Who could have ever guessed? I know that the X-Men line group, whatever, they've got big plans for Storm, and powerful black female character, sure, solo book, let's get on that. The challenge is it's got an uphill battle. Why? Because solo X-Men books, solo books in the X-Men universe, unless they are called Wolverine or Deadpool, tend to not do well. Whether it's White Dude Cyclops, I mean, hell, even the Cable book didn't do particularly well. It lasted a long time, but it didn't do particularly well. And when it had Deadpool in it, it did better. But we can go down the long lineup of Jean Grey, Beast. I think Angel had a limited series at one point. Like I mean, like they all suck from a sales perspective. Gambit, in the height of his popularity, didn't do particularly well. Like these titles don't do well. They put Rogue and Gambit together, and that didn't do terribly well. I mean, none of these X-Men solo books don't sell well. It's amazing. Who could have ever guessed? But that's just how it is. So what do you glean from that? I mean, I made this point on I don't remember one of these dumb social media platforms that Iceman didn't sell well in early or later, and so the correlation. I mean, you can certainly somebody can draw the conclusion like gay Iceman solo series doesn't do very well. Sure, but you also have to acknowledge that straight Iceman solo series also didn't do very well. Iceman solo series period doesn't do very well. And so then this video gets made about me being a cuck or some dumb stuff like that. But it's like numbers are funny things because on any given day they can support your theory, they can contradict your theory. The trick is you have to be willing to take this data in, assess it, see if you have an argument against it. And sometimes you do. Maybe your argument is that. Who knows? Maybe your argument is that Iceman would do great if, like Jim Lee was drawing it, and you would be correct. If you put a superstar creative team on a book, it does tend to sell better. That is true. That leads to a second question, which is, well, what is going to get you more money? Is it going to be the Jim Lee on solo Iceman book or Jim Lee on X-Men team book? Chances are, not all Jim Lees are equal. that doesn't make a lot of sense. And the Jim Lee X-Men team book is going to do better than the Jim Lee solo Iceman book. Of course, all this stuff is irrelevant because Jim Lee works for DC. But, in this parallel universe where Jim Lee is cranking out a solo Iceman book, why would that ever happen? Anyway, numbers are funny things. Like I say, you have to be willing to be adaptive to your facts, because numbers can come around and either validate what you're saying, and then you can kind of be a champion and go around and prove how, talk about how right you are with everything. Or they can have this very sneaky way of taking your preconceived notions and blowing a hole in the middle of it. And the only thing you can do is, be gracious enough to accept data changes. And I think it's healthy, by the way, to challenge your own assumptions with data. It keeps you from becoming, weird tunnel vision person. All this stuff seems very, very obvious. I don't know. What are some of those data points that you were positive were a certain way, and then it turned out nope, it's something else? Let me know in the comments below. What have you been frustrated by? Do I frustrate you on a regular basis? I'm sure some of you. Oh, there's the car saying I'm supposed to park properly. There you have it. Anyway, like and subscribe, and thanks for listening.